Welcome to our daily reflection for this Thursday, October 3rd. And today we continue with the reflections of Job, and those are deep, sober reflections. I like how the Bible deals honestly with Job and his problems. And it's really the plight of humanity and the plight of suffering, which we all share of, and some more than others like Job. And maybe you know a Job in your life, or maybe you feel like you're the Job in your life. Well, there's hope in his very honest dialogue and reflections about his suffering and his dialogue with God. Yesterday we saw that he level set, that he realized that God owes him nothing, and then he complains and makes his request to God with a deep sense of humility, right? Not expectation like, God, you owe me this, but God, what can I answer you? Who can be justified in your sight? But I'll humbly make my plea to you because you are gracious and you are awesome. And that's the approach we are to take. And Job shows us this. And now Job, in his dialogue here, he tells his friends to have pity on him, for God has struck him. And but don't, as if they were divine, cast judgments upon him. So yes, God has struck him, but because God has struck him, they shouldn't be making judgments that Job deserved this, or Job has in a particular way created a crime for which God is judging him. God's judgment, God may allow us to suffer, but it's not necessarily for our sins. And that's an important teaching. I think part of us, like Job's friends, might think that when, especially we suffer, or even when others suffer, it was their due, that they deserved it. And I think that's something we all kind of, with our Catholic guilt sometimes say, oh gosh, I'm suffering. What did I do wrong to displease God? He's punishing me. And it may not be for our punishment, but it might be for our sanctification. And there might be a deeper purpose, not for the atonement for sin so much, but to draw us closer to the mystery of trusting in God. And that's what Job does here. Job, we know, is innocent. And yet his suffering will draw him closer to God, and it will purify and deepen his faith and hope in God. And so Job says, oh, I wish that these words of mine could be written down even in stone. And luckily they were written down in the scriptures, which is even better. He says, but as for me, I know that my vindicator lives, right? And that he will stand forth forth upon the dust. And I myself shall see him with my own eyes, not another's, and from my flesh I shall see God. And so here's the beautiful thing. Job knows that even though he's suffering great afflictions and even injustices, that in the end, God will raise him up, and even bodily, with his own bodily eyes, he will see God, his vindicator, and he will be vindicated in the end. Now, Job knows that that vindication may not be until the resurrection of the dead, but he knows he will be vindicated in the end. And his patience for vindication and justice is one we all, especially as Christians, must share, because we know that God will come to judge the living and the dead, vindicating the righteous, judging the wicked, in the end, in the final resurrection of the dead. It may not be in our lifetime. And so sometimes we suffer a certain impatience where we want God to make things right in the world now, in our lifetime. But it may not be so. Sometimes the wicked won't be judged until the afterlife, until the final coming of Jesus. And sometimes the innocent may not be vindicated until that resurrection, but they will be. Both the innocent and the wicked will find justice in God's eyes and in our own at the end of time, when God raises the dead in the final judgment. And so we want to remember that and wait for it. And that's what the Psalm is about too. Psalm 27 says, I believe I shall see the goodness of the Lord in the land of the living. Wait for the Lord with courage. And that is our encouragement from Job and the psalmist today, to wait for the Lord for justice to come. May the Lord give you that patience and bless and keep you. Thanks to God's providence, I'm speaking to you from the Augustine Institute's new campus in St. Louis, Missouri. We have this wonderful 286-acre state-of-the-art campus, which is going to allow us to transform our mission from simply having digital platforms to now having a physical platform that complements those digital platforms. It allows us to provide in-person education and training in the faith. We think this is going to be transformative, increasing our student enrollment, providing and allowing us to have conferences and retreats for the church and for the Catholic laity and religious across North America. Help the Augustine Institute serve Christ and the church with this new campus. A gift of $100 or more will allow you to receive a gift in preparation for Advent called Waiting for Christ by St. John Henry Newman. We'll send that to you before Advent, and you can go to augustineinstitute.org/give and make a donation today.